Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank everyone for being here today and attending this panel. This panel will discuss something that's very, very important, not just across America, but primarily in Texas as well. You know, no one can disagree with the idea of temporary assistance for needy families. Everybody wants to help those who are in need. That is a human thing for us to do. But one of the things that we want to make sure is that the term temporary is elevated and not long-term or forever. Temporary should never be taken the place of long-term or forever. So one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we talk about how we can move from one place to another place in terms of welfare to work. And I know this is a conversation that goes on all over the country. It goes on in most households. How do we help people move from welfare to work? We had a wonderful discussion at Bonton's down in Dallas about three weeks ago. We did a roundtable discussion, and I'm going to introduce our distinguished panel to you in just a moment. And we wanted to basically survey individuals who had actually been in the welfare system and working their way out of the welfare system and utilizing a program like Bonton Farms and the wonderful things that they're doing down in the Dallas area. They've been extremely effective. And so without further ado, I want to first introduce my distinguished panel to you, and then we will go into, each one of them will have about 5 minutes to talk a little bit about their journey. And then we'll go into some questions from the panel side, from the moderator to the panel, and then we'll go into Q&A from the audience to the panel. So I'm going to start on the far end, and we're joined by a distinguished senior fellow with the Texas Public Policy Foundation's Right on Work initiative, previously served as the state representative to House District 65 between 2013 and 2019. He was the chair of the policy committee for the Texas House of Representatives Republican Caucus, subcommittee chairman for long-term finance and planning and transportation committee. He also served on the appropriations committee, transportation committee, local and consent calendars. Will you help me welcome the Honorable Ron Simmons?
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
And to his immediate right, we have a master farmer at Bonton Farms. And she was raised in the Bonton area, often spent most of her summers there in the Bonton community. She served on numerous nonprofit organizations, just helping out in many different ways. Her life took a turn 6 years ago when when she lost her son to gun violence. She's worked at Bonton Farms now as a master farmer and a master gardener for several years, and she is looking for the opportunity to continue to advance her education. Will you welcome Lanika Wright? And to her immediate right, he received his Bachelor's of Science degree in Computer Science and Engineering from Louisiana Tech University, a certified speaker, instructor, and a dynamic speaker at Works. And he also served as the Vice President of Operations for Bonton Farms, a local nonprofit urban farming community serving the community of Bonton in South Dallas. He's worked in numerous organizations, and he serves as the Executive Director for Mercer Street. He also served as the Senior Director, Staff Recruiting Director as well, on Kids Across America, Urban Christian Support Camp, and a Youth Development Minister. I'd like you to welcome Ricky Jimmerson. And last but not least, we have with us, she's a paralegal with a passion for law, and she's also a speaker on the task force at Dallas ISD. She's a PTO president at Madison High School, Dade Middle School, and J.J. Rhodes Elementary School. 37-year-old mother of 5, residing in Bonton neighborhood, and she is one of the Administrative Assistance at Bonton Farms. Would you help me welcome Lenona Shields? And so at this time, I will give each one of our panelists about 5 minutes to do an intro and give a little bit about their journey. You want to start right here with Lenona?
Sure.
Lenona's eyes got a little big. You want me to start on the other end?
Okay, good evening. Thank you for having me. Like you said, I'm a mother of 5. I was told we're coming to talk about what hinders us from being self-sufficient, basically. So I start from, I had a mother and a father coming up. They shared custody, mostly with my mom. Lived in the country, Groesbeck, Texas. So I ran around, did a lot of country stuff. I mean, just being honest, that's the only way I know how to speak. And so from that, I was kind of a grandmother's child. She passed in 2012, 2013. So trying to keep the family together, but it's kind of hard to take on that plate when you have so many people that have ventured off. So with that being said, where I come in at to, I guess my journey started as a child, and then when I got older, I came to Dallas in 2002, graduated in Waco, went to Dallas, been there ever since, started having kids 2005. So it was a long journey. So I'm saying all that to say that I have my hands full. On top of that, I try to give back to my community as much as I can. As far as he said, I also been a part of the policy council at Greater Head Start of Dallas. I just try to help out as much as I can because I know that other people, if I could say this, our people are sometimes we don't know how to communicate the correct way. And so that leaves us as being mad and angry, and they look at us and view us as in a different way. So I try to be there to try to communicate for my people, to be an advocate in any way. And it could be someone on the side of the road. So it's so many things that I'm passionate about, and I want to help in the community, but it starts with the people at the top. And the people at the top are so far away from the people at the bottom, and they don't have to walk through those dark roads in order to get to where we are, because when we get grown, we don't know about credit, we don't know about, we need counseling, because we don't know how to communicate from the trauma that we have went through coming up. We don't know about credit, we don't know about financial education. We have to get grown to learn these things. So I'm trying to break the system and teach my kids these things all at once in this generation, so it's kind of hard. We don't know about banking. We don't know about, in order to get off of housing, to be self-sufficient, you have to have credit. I just checked my credit score, it's 542. It's not good, but I'm gonna work on it. So we have to have all of those things. If we don't know that, if we don't have that knowledge, then we can't prevail. So I think that there are a lot of people that are passionate and can make a change, but we have to all connect together. So I'm just here to do my part, if I could say that. Do I have
Thank you.
more time?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Okay.
you're
I just
doing
wanna
great.
keep the time. Okay.
You're doing wonderful.
Kind of nervous, but I'm gonna continue going.
There
Just
you
a
go.
quick bit.
Just-
Okay, so
No.
like he said, we had a roundtable discussion, and so blessed to be here to speak my piece on behalf of Texas. That's huge to me. So I'm kind of still, happy. But
Yeah.
we had a great conversation about moving forward. And so this guy was so gracious to invite us here to speak on the things that hinder us from moving forward. So we're basically doing all these things ourselves if we don't have anybody that's going to guide us to, oh, we have this person that can help you do this, and we have this person. We don't really have that in the communities. They say that they will help us do all of this. We elect these people in our city. They don't come down there. We don't see them. We don't, we're misinformed. So they might say, oh, well, we hate to see her coming, but that should be in a good way, because sometimes they twist your demeanor, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm speaking for Texas, and they're always saying, well, y'all brought her to but I'm just saying that it can be turned into something wonderful. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So I'm here to help.
Thank you so much. Absolutely.
You're welcome.
And next will be Mr. Jimmis.
Yeah, first of all, it's a blessing to be here with all of you. It really is. I'm from the South. I'm from Louisiana originally, and so I will say this here: I had a praying grandmother. There may be some people that can understand and relate to that. I grew up in Louisiana. My mother, I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My mother died at the age of 27 due to cancer. So I, at one point in time in my life, did grow up as a part of the system. But through prayer, through my grandparents, they realized, okay, we know what motivated him, and at that time it was sports. Sports was my outlet. It was my way that I could be aggressive, and it was actually praised. And so I couldn't believe it. It's like, are you kidding me? If I hit somebody, people get excited about it. And so literally that was my motivation. That was my outlet with sports. So I played sports growing up through grade school, and they used that as a platform to say, okay, if you want to continue playing sports, you can't make anything less than a B. And so I thought that was real cruel at the time, but they knew that would motivate me. And so I'm a product of a generation that literally said there's got to be more. I want more. My mother was 27 with 3 children, but she knew there was something more. And so she taught us from the age of 6. I was taught I was the man of the house and had to protect. And so I grew up, looking out for others, literally my entire life. So I graduated from high school with honors because, again, my grandparents. I went on to college, and that's where I met my mentor, a man who helped me understand my purpose, and the gifts that I've been given to be able to help others. And so for the last probably 24 years, 25 years of my life, I've literally dedicated to helping what I call likable heroes. I'm a firm believer that everyone needs to see likable heroes. It's something different when you see someone that looks like you doing something you never thought was possible. People may tell you different things, but it's different when you actually see someone that looks like you doing something you didn't think was possible. I graduated college, went on to Missouri, Show Me State. I see somebody throwing their hands up. Went over there for 20 years and served with an organization called Kids Across America, which is the largest Christian sports camp in the country for urban youth. And that's where I saw likable heroes. I saw men and women of different ethnicities that looked like me in my age range that were doing things I didn't think were possible. The thought of seeing a minority driving boats, that was new to me. To see minorities leading in high ropes courses, that was new to me. And so that just really challenged me that there's a whole lot more out there. And so that's been my life pursuit. Literally, it's creating avenues that others can, number one, understand what their gifts are and really seek to achieve their maximum potential. So it's a privilege to be here, and I'm excited about it.
Thank you so much. And our next speaker, Vanika.
Hi, I want to thank y'all for letting me be a mustard seed to this recipe y'all cooking up. I am born and raised in Dallas, which is the heart of Texas. And so we are really friendly in Dallas, and you're going to love me one way or another. You're going to love to see me coming, or you're going to love to see me going. And so Bunton played a big part with getting me back to this part in my life, because before I made it to Bunton, I had done been through so much that I felt like I had no purpose to serve. And me making it to Bunton, seeing that there are really people who really, really care about others, like changed my perception of not having a purpose. And the same way Bunton helped and walked me through steps, it was vice versa. So when it came to government assistance, I was the go-to girl. And when it came to helping me calm my nerves, they was the go-to people. And so I learned so much from just them walking with me and me being able to teach them, because I've always been taught it's no color, it's no gender, it's no race, it's no religion, it's one, and it's one God in one world. And so the older I got, I didn't have that teaching in my ear. I veered away. And so when I got to the point of no return, here come Bunton Farms. And I saw what was instilled in me as a child resurface. And so I was able to help them. They was able to help me. But most of all, the teaching that I gave them prepared them for what was coming next. And so they still call me and ask me, but I am so grateful to find someone that took the time to have the patience to deal with me. And so this one company turned into many more companies, and I'm sure it's gonna be many more companies, but this is my family. So I have a granddaughter that go to the school. I have a son that works on the weekend. I'm the first certified gardener that Bunton have, so I have to pat myself on the back. I never seen it coming. I'm just so grateful to even be able to, again, be a mustard seed in this recipe, because I'm the oldest, and so I've always been so bossy, and I've always run things. And so now I run things from a different point of view. I'm not so bossy, I'm not. I'm still bossy, I just don't rub it in as much. I just don't rub it in as much. But no, I have came a long way from literally escaping death 9 times. My last accident I was in, oh my God, the details. But I was the only survivor of the car wreck, and the only survivor of the car wreck, and to see with my own eyes a whole motor split in half, it's not, it don't sound real, but it's captured somewhere on camera. It didn't happen, and I seen it with my eyes. And so that was the turning point, I'm gonna get tired, or I'm just gonna go ahead and finish. And so tired was what it was. And I was directed to Bunton Farms, where I was able to get rooted and grounded. And this is me now. So thank you guys again.
Thank you. And Ron Simmons, you served 3 terms in the House. You have a strong passion for right on work. You've made major contributions to innovation in that field of thought and policy. Floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Richard, and thank you all for being here. Ricky, was that Joe White in Kanakuk? Yep. My kids went up there, so actually my daughter also went and taught down. You ever heard of Camp Barnabas? Of course. Down the street, which is even does better work.
Yes, Camp in Purdy.
You know, Richard, it's really interesting. You know, I grew up, my mom and dad were school teachers and in Arkansas, so they didn't pick the highest paid state to teach school in. Thank God for Mississippi, because we would have been 50th, but we were 49th. And we were never on government assistance, although we probably should have been. You know, about the 3rd week of every month when our money ran out, I tell people we lived on the Oreo budget, because my mom would buy groceries once a month because they got paid once a month, and then I knew when Oreos ran out, which was pretty quick, we were going to have a slim the rest of the month, because there's 4 of us kids as well, and mom and dad divorced when I was in high school and what have you. But I guess, and so I was always driven, because I saw my mom struggle. My mom and dad struggle a lot, and then my mom struggled after my dad left. And for me, it was just a driving sense of I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to do that. I'm kind of like what you're talking about. I'm going to stop that at my generation, right? And so, the Lord really softens you sometimes, right? Some of the stuff you've been through and everybody's been through. Well, our middle son was born with disabilities. He's autistic. He has seizures. He's now 35. And that really, really had an effect on my heart. And as I saw him interact in society and the chances that he didn't have because he looked a little different, or maybe he looked at you a little different, stare at you sometimes, or he would have a small seizure in front of people, and how we easily judge things like that. I began thinking, man, I did not understand before what prejudice meant or what discrimination meant. And that really changed my whole perspective of that. And the other thing I knew, it's always emotional for me to talk about Daniel, but the other thing I knew was that given the right opportunity, our son Daniel wanted the same things that everybody else's kids wanted. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to be dependent on the government. He didn't want to be dependent on mom and dad. He wanted to be independent. Well, if Daniel felt that way, then I know other people feel that way as well, that maybe not have a disability, but they are disabled in a sense that, like what you said, we didn't get taught that stuff at home. We had to wait till we got to be adults to really understand. And so my whole deal is, if given the opportunity, 99.9999% of people want to be independent. They want to make it on their own. This whole deal about people just want to stay on government assistance, I do not buy that for 1 second. And if you'll listen to what we heard at the roundtable, Richard, was that what we really learned was that the system keeps you on the system. Mm-hmm. And that's where we as public policy people can make a difference. Now, as individuals, we can put our hands and our feet and our money and help out some of these programs like Bonton and whatever, but as public policy people, we need to change these policies. And that's what's got me interested in this. That's what is passionate for me, and I am committed to doing all I can to help do that.
Thank you, Ron.
You bet.
Lanika, you are the go-to person. You know the system.
Yes.
You know the welfare system. You know how it works. What led you in? Was it your environment that steered you into that direction, or how did you learn the system so well, the welfare system?
Okay, so in high school, I never forget the year of '94. They took 12 of my schoolmates out of school and took them to the federal penitentiary. But these kids are like a drum major, the #1 drum major for the band, played basketball. And so now it's like, what happened? Because they go to school every day like us. Mm-hmm. Well, if you sit and you watch your child from the age of 7, and you watch, and you watch, and you watch, and you wait until you get old enough to grab him and put him in the system, this is all I see. So it's not making sense at the time because I'm thinking as a teenager, but the older you get, well, no. So to be street smart, you pick up quick. And so here my classmates are locked up in the federal penitentiary. What did they do that I didn't see? Mm-hmm. Well, y'all again watched them. And so now I'm watching it's police riots, because at the time I was staying in the projects. It's police riots. Nobody go to jail. But this is life. This is how people are making it. Mm-hmm. You just talk to somebody older. He got a little money. He gonna lead you down the right direction. Well, my homegirl got a low income. You don't got to have a job to have a low income. Who don't have to have a job? I'm going. Low income, I don't got no income. Mm-hmm. I have no rent to pay. I got a low income, no kids. So here's the independence. This is where the independence started. So from not having an income to probably the next year it being something mandatory that you have to pay. My rent's $25. The low incomes I stayed in, it was like New Jack City. It's money to be made. All you have to do is just go stand there, and money's gonna fall in your lap. So it's easy. So now I can go get food stamps. I ain't got no kids. I can go get food stamps though. I can still stay in New Jack City and I still can pay $25 a month. I can ride on Dayton's. I can ride with the last system. I can go to the beauty shop every other day. I can go get my nails done. I can run the Big T, because I'm on government assistance. My rent ain't nothing. It's no structure here. It's no structure. So what you see, a lot of times, our eyes overload our stomach and our thoughts. And so this was the good life.
So it was attractive.
Yes.
It was made, public assistance was made attractive.
Yes. And so I at the age of 12, I worked under my social. So at 12, I worked. At 13, I worked. At 14, I worked. But in between the time when I was going to school, I still worked under the table. My mama said, you can have whatever you want when you can buy it. So I worked under the table.
What happens? Let me ask you a question, a follow up on that. What happens when more money comes into the household, when you get jobs and you make more? Then does that threaten your government assistance?
No, so it don't threaten the assistant. It's actually supposed to be a checkup because they go by your income. And so now you have a job. And so the money gonna feel good in a minute. So your money feel good because you done been on your job a month or two. Well, now it's time to report that I've been on my job after 3 months. Well, when they give me my paper, they said my rent went from $25 to $250.
So you actually make less money.
So why would I work?
Yeah. No,
There you go. And that's what I'm getting at. It's basically called the welfare cliff. The more money I make, then the less money, it takes away from my support. And so back to what Lanika just said, why would I work? Simply because it disincentivizes me to go to work and be productive. Let's move on. Ricky, we talked about this at the round table. We talked about, fatherlessness and fathers not in the home and single parent households with just moms in the home. And when fathers come to the home, or men, the biological father he can't move in because that will then also take us off the cliff. Talk to us a little bit about that.
First of all, let me share this here. A friend of mine shared an author with me, Edward Demings. I'm quite sure some of you may be familiar with him. Edward Demings made a very profound statement. He said, every system is perfectly designed to get exactly what it gets. Think about that. Every system is perfectly designed to get exactly what it gets. And so life is an assembly line in some regards. You can't stop it. Life is going to continue. And so we have to look at what is coming off this line. What are we putting together? What ingredients? What tools? What packaging are we putting together to generate what we're generating in this thing called life? But he said life is every system is perfectly designed to get exactly what it gets. So I'll give you an example. For some of the individuals I've had the privilege of serving with over the last 20 plus years, your housing is dependent upon, as Nika shared, is dependent upon your income. So you have a single parent mom. She's living in a 2 to 3 bedroom apartment, depending on how many kids she has, and it's subsidized based on her income. Okay. Now you have a father who actively wants to be involved and engaged in life with his or her kids. And what happens is literally, if dad is living there, then she gets penalized because now the income goes up, but it goes up so high that literally they're not helping, they're actually hurting because now he can't make enough money, or they can't make enough money as a family to sustain where they're living. And so what ends up happening is you see dad sneaking in after 5 p.m., and then he's out before 6 a.m. in the morning. And so the thing that I look at is, okay, I grew up, again, single parent mom until my mother passed away. And then I moved in with my grandparents where I saw an intact family, my mother, my grandmother, and grandfather. But what are you teaching the kids? You know, what are you teaching that little guy who looks up at his dad as his role model in terms of what his role is as a man? You know, what are you teaching the daughters when they see their dad sneaking in after 5 p.m. and he's leaving at 6 o'clock? And so the system, again, it may have good intentions, but the thing I want to encourage us is let's not be undercover bosses. You know, the show Undercover Boss, if you look at the concept of that show, we have these people who are sitting here making decisions, and on paper and in theory, it all makes sense. It works perfectly. But they have no idea how it impacts those who are actually within that system until they come out of the office space, go down to the ground and see the impact it's having. And then they understand a lot of things. And so I want to encourage us, you know, let's not become undercover bosses. Let's get out on the ground surface and see what's going on, get to know families. And I share this here, you know, in all my years of living, I've never in my life met anyone who I've asked, what did you want to be in life, who told me they wanted to sell drugs. I've never in my life, I'm 46 years old, I've never met a man or a woman who has told me their goal in life was to sell drugs. It was circumstances. I've got a mom who's single, who's doing the best she can, and it's me and my little sibling. I can't let my mom be on the streets. It's easy when again, I'm too young to get a job, but every time I go to the corner drugstore, there's somebody telling me, hey man, if you just run this little package across the street, I give you $25. So wait a minute, just for taking it across the street? And so guess what? He takes that home to mom, and mom makes him feel good. It's like, you providing for the family. Again, what does he want to do? He wants to be a provider. And so I just want to reiterate, every system is perfectly designed to get exactly what it gets. And I think we need to take a serious, hard, in-depth look at that.
And I think, you know, we can also see some unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
You know, basically what we mentioned is there are great intentions, you know, to help people who need help. But how do we do that without making them dependent on the system, hindering them, and then creating a situation where we have generational welfare, and taking the word temporary out,
Yes,
and making it for a whole lifetime? And talk to us a little bit, Lenona, about some of the barriers to moving away from the welfare system into self-sufficiency. What are some of the things that you see that kind of get in the way, roadblocks or stumbling blocks?
Keeps you in the system, right?
Yeah, that kind of keeps you in.
So when I got my low income, I had to sign up online. I think they do a raffle. How they pick people, I don't know. But you have to be like under a certain income. You can't go over that income bracket. And so I got my housing. I moved in 2014 or 2016. So to me, I feel like that credit is one. Credit, you have to, in order to get off of housing, you have to get into like a home buyers program or something like that. They have their own programs, different programs they refer you to. So you have to meet those requirements. So that's where the credit and the background and all the application fees come. You don't, if you don't get in there, they have like certain places that they send you to, the suburbs. It's not like you can just go, I want that house right there next to you. I got housing, can I get this house? So it's not that easy. You have to go off of the different programs that they have and they let you in on. So I haven't made it to that point yet. So now I have to fix my credit in order for me to move. So I have 5 kids. Dad pays $488 child support. That's my income. If I don't go out and make my own income, which would add to that, and then my rent would be jacked up. So my
if you-
rent is
so
like
if- If
1,200.
you actually go out and make more money, they're gonna increase your rent.
And I would be paying a portion, more of a portion of that 1,200 that my apartment rents for.
Okay.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, upstairs and downstairs. Okay, so in order for me to get a house, because I would like to be a homeowner, there are programs, but like I said, you have to get your background together. And if you don't know that, they're not just going to help you. You have to continue to force your way to be heard, basically. Oh, we don't want to deal with them. But it should be, they should have specialists that, like, you know, housing specialists that reach out to us, which would be our caseworkers. We don't really hear from them. So we have to educate ourselves on how to be self-sufficient.
What's interesting is, let me chime right in. What's interesting is Lanika said, you know, it was easy to figure out how to get on. You know, I mean, all the ducks are in a row, and it's just easy to get in, and now they're passing out candy, and everything is good. And when you try to get off, what I'm hearing you say is like pulling teeth. So we can actually have a system that have all the best intentions in mind of helping individuals, but we need to be just as vigilant as on working people off of welfare as we are in getting them into the welfare system.
Can I share something in terms of the barrier? Because I want to elaborate a little bit more on what Lenona shared. You know, we'll just take the fees. So application fees. So anytime you want to apply for governmental housing, there's an application fee.
Which is just the dumbest
Okay.
thing I've ever
So-
heard in my life. If you had money, you wouldn't be applying.
So that fee can range.
I mean,
anywhere
am I wrong on that?
No,
Right.
you're not wrong. But it can range anywhere from $25 to $150 per application. It's non-refundable. Okay? So you think about it. If you have a criminal record, they already know before they even accept it, they're not gonna accept you. So it's just money. They're making money. And you can go 3, 4, 5 times and do the math on that. Those are barriers that have to be addressed. You know, there's a non-refundable application fee, and that landlord or that landlord has the opportunity to set that rate at whatever they desire. And if you want to apply to get in that place, you've got to pay that fee. And whether they tell you yay or nay, it doesn't matter. You have to pay that fee, and it's non-refundable. And so when you have someone, again, who's trying to get off of that, it's that much harder to climb out of those type of holes.
Ron, if we had, you know, from a policy standpoint, if we had a piece of legislation that looked at auditing TANF, you know, auditing them to make sure that the focus was not necessarily on bringing people in, how many people you bring into the system, but also the outcomes of how many people you actually can work out of the system. I think that's some things right now that TPPF is working on, is basically, you know, auditing TANF to make sure
one
that
of the policy ideas is because TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, is federal money, but it's administered by the state. And each state kind of has their own way of doing that. And so one of the things that we can ask our legislature to do is let's audit how we're handling that money to make sure it is efficient. Is it for the best benefit of the people who actually really need it? Are there any loopholes in there that allowed it to be abused, or either by the user or by the landlords and whatever? And it would be simple. I say simple. The statute would be pretty simple. To go back to what Ricky said on saying that if you are a landlord, if you deny someone the ability to live there, you have to rebate their fee. I mean, that shouldn't be overly complicated. Now, you'll have people to be against it. The apartment association, which has big time lobbyists, will be against that. But you have to work your way through that. I mean, that's just the way it works. Other things too, that from a public policy standpoint, that I know Ricky has been one of the barriers. With the first time I was down there, and your partner Darren said, look, when people come out of prison, they've lost their driver's license.
Yeah.
Yet they got to go get a job, because if they don't get a job, they're going to go back to hustling, which is probably going to put them back in prison.
Yes.
But because the reason they can't get their driver's license is a lot of times they'll have had some civil fines, like maybe parking tickets or speeding tickets, and yet even though in a sense, in my opinion, they've paid their debt, they did something wrong, they paid their debt, we ought to either have a way where those can be waived, or at least those can be extended, and there's a small payment plan, because those people, the number one reason that Ricky and Darren told me that these people end up not employed is because they will get a job, okay, and then they can't get transportation there because it may take them 2 hours on the bus system to get
Correct.
there. And those are policy things, public policy things that you and I can talk to our legislators about and say, look, let's make this simple. Now, the thing that excites me the most, Richard, is that this is no longer a partisan issue.
Right.
We are seeing in Texas anyway, Republicans and Democrats coming together and saying, hey, let's do some of these things. For example, Chairman White is James White, who is a very conservative Republican from Southeast Texas, is working on a couple of bills that I wrote down here that are really going to be good, like reducing licensing rules and for entrepreneurs that want to get into their own business. Like if you wanted to start your own little business, there shouldn't be all these barriers to do that, right?
And to your point, Ron, Senator West is also sponsoring a bill to deal with AuditingTANF.
Yeah, that's exactly
so
right.
Democrats and Republicans working together, this is a bipartisan issue, because what we're trying to do is lift people out of poverty so that they can experience, the fruits of America and the American dream.
Yeah, and one last thing that we did, I know we're running short on time, but and kind of what also got me excited about this is last legislative session, 2019, we worked on some legislation that was put together, and it was called, let me get the right name for it, it's called the Industry Recognized Apprenticeship Grant Program. And there's a company in Houston called S&B Constructors, and they're a huge construction firm that builds all sorts of things, refineries. I mean, they had 5,000 employees, so they're huge. They had a hard time finding quality employees. Now, you got these people here that are on government assistance that are saying, hey, if you'll give me an opportunity, I'll get off. And here's somebody over here saying, I can't find people to give an opportunity to. And they tried to go through government to get it worked out, and they couldn't get it worked out. So they said, you know what, dadgummit, I'm just going to do it myself. So they set up their own training program to train people that had no skill in this area at all to become either a welder, an electrician, pipe fitter, those things. And the key to it for them is they went to United Way and that helped them, and they said, help us find people who are on government assistance that have a desire to come and work, and we will put them in this training program. Not only will we train them, we will pay them, which is the key. Yes. Earn while you learn. They paid them a minimum of $15 to $16 an hour during the training, and they guaranteed them a job on the way out after somewhere around 20 weeks of training.
Ron, let me step right in there because that's critical. That's key. Having a livable wage. Yes. Because understanding that skill sets and skill building is necessary, and while you're building this skill, you're earning a livable wage that will then get you totally away from the welfare cliff. See, right now, though, that model escapes the welfare cliff.
Yeah.
But here, we in government, in policy, we have a responsibility to make sure that cliff does not exist.
And so once we saw this, we passed a bill. So now the state of Texas is engaging and incentivizing companies to do what S&B has done, and we will reimburse them for part of the cost, but they have to focus on people that are on assistance, people that have come out of prison, people that are in the military, and then also they have to pay them at least $15 an hour during the training program. So we're trying to get a public-private partnership working together on
And
that
that's the
type of
key.
great.
We've come up on the time now to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions. And this is the Q&A moment for the audience. We have a young man with his hand up right here, and then we'll come over to this side. And they'll bring up the mics, and they will hold the mics.
Yeah, okay, so to say that I'm impressed is an understatement with the talent you guys got here. It's just awesome.
Thank you.
I am a volunteer for Child Protective Services, work with kids who are aging out, teenagers. And I'm looking for inspirational books or movies. My question is, you got any? And more specifically, I'll just throw one out just for the heck of it, is that The Purpose-Driven Life. But at the same time, maybe that's a little too deep for these kids going out, so that's my question.
I think there are a lot of good resources for those, and Ricky, you may know some of those as well, but I think there are absolutely good inspirational resources. If you can get anything, find any speeches and stuff that somebody like Tony Dungy has done, Coach Dungy has done that. I just read an article that he had in the Wall Street Journal on some stuff. Herschel Walker's got some great inspirational stories as well. I always love the Moody Rudy.
Rudy?
Yeah. So you guys may have some other ideas.
Yeah,
on that.
and I would also suggest, because there's information about Bonton Farms out there, I would also suggest taking a real close look at Bonton Farms in Dallas. They're doing a fabulous job of really turning that community around with something that most people wouldn't think about, and that's an urban farm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Ricky,
Yes,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it is an urban farm. I would say also in the community that the young people you're working with are in, find out who's doing work in the community, and get them engaged with them as well. Oftentimes, again, we can give them material, but it's another thing when you can actually use your hands and tangibly be a part of something that's bigger than you. We all desire to be a part of something that's bigger than us. So I would encourage you to find out whatever communities these young people are in, and find ways to get them actively involved in their communities.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Thank you. You can hold it. Love your stories. Thank you so much. My gut tells me that every assistance organization, from welfare to WIC, whatever it is their mission that they put out front is one thing, but behind the scenes, their mission is self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep the size of my organization as big as it is. If I shrink and I lose money, I have to let people go. I think that is the number one problem, and I'll give you the quick example. My niece graduated from A&M a few years ago, loves nutrition, was a nutrition major, she's real health oriented. She took a job helping to run the local WIC office here in Austin. And she said, Aunt Lisa, I'm so excited. They're letting me write some policy. I want to motivate these young mothers with young children to get off the program. I want to teach them about the fun of exercise, doing it with their kids. She's naive as can be, but so sweet, right? We all love it, the enthusiasm. Well, what happened was people started peeling away from WIC, and she got in trouble with her boss because they weren't going to receive the budget money that they needed to stay big. This is how it works. So it looks like from the recipient's perspective, oh, this organization is here to help me, but in actuality, they're there for self-preservation. They want to keep their jobs. So what do we do policy?
Well, that's why you have to have strict audit procedures. That's why, those people only get the money that's given to them by the elected officials, okay? The legislature doles out the money, or the U.S. Congress does. So it is incumbent upon the legislatures around the country and the U.S. Congress to dig into and to have the parameters set so that can't happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's really where it comes to. I don't necessarily blame the agency, although it makes me irritated like it does you. The people that are giving them the money, like if I gave you money, you're going to do something with it, right? So if I want you to stop doing something with it, I can ask you to change your behavior. But the main thing is I need to not give you the money, right? That's really what we need to do. In other words, we need to have a program for them where they're personally incentivized, okay, financially to get people successful. Like there should be a program that you were talking about as far as housing. When she says, there's nobody that shows me a plan to get from credit 542 to 700 or to get, that's where we ought to be spending our money. Okay, you're on housing now, here's the plan to get off. And
Right.
and you know what, if I've got 100 of these customers that are like this, if you're my client, every time I get somebody off housing into a house, I ought to get a bonus.
Right.
Right? And everybody would be better off like that.
And Ron, what you're talking about is
Common sense, which is very difficult in public
no, actually what you're talking about is changing the goals.
Literally.
Yeah.
Changing the goals.
Yes.
The
Yes.
outcome goals.
Yes.
See, because if the outcome goal is to service thousands of people, then you're going to go out and get more. You're going to get more and more
That's
people to
what I'm
service, so
talking about,
that your budget will grow. But if the outcome goal is
Yeah,
to
yeah.
work people away from that into independence and self-sufficiency and self-reliance, then and you put the incentives for that, then you change the mission and the goals of the agency and the organization. And I think that's what we're seeing coming out of the Opportunity Project. Next question.
Yeah, Ricky, you mentioned earlier about your mentor. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did you meet your mentor? And
Sure.
is that something we really ought to spend some time focusing on?
I think it is. It's funny you say that because my mentor is the first man of color that I would say that was a few years older than me that literally looked at me and saw potential I didn't see. And so I was in college. It started as a bet. Someone I was talking to applied to go to the housing to be an RA, and they got declined. They had all the qualifications. They told them they were overqualified. And I thought it was hilarious. It's like, how can you be overqualified to be an RA on a college campus as a student? And so the bet was that I could go and apply without any of the qualifications and get the job, and so I did, just to prove a point. And I got the job. I wasn't expecting it, but I got the job. And this was my supervisor. And so he just began to walk me through all of my wounds. I had, as she talked about therapy, I had daddy wounds from not having my father there on a regular daily basis. I had mama wounds from losing my mother at an early age. But then he also began to help me understand, here's your skill sets, and this is where you are naturally gifted at. And then he began to challenge me in terms of how to utilize those things. And so that's, for instance, if we had a situation where our housing team, something was due on Thursday, he'd tell me yours is due on Tuesday. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you got to be ahead of the rest. So he challenged me like that until that became the way I began to think. And so that's one of the things that led into that. Mm-hmm.
I have another question on this side.
Thank you for lifting up that question about mentorship, because that is one thing that our foundation funds. We believe strongly that God did not put us down here to try to figure it out on our own.
Yes.
We'll be there walking alongside each other. But I wondered if you could give me a quick update on where we are with the cliff effect. That is not heart surgery. Like, we stair step these things. Why? What are the barriers to getting this change at the policy level?
I think that we're working on some policy right now that basically we talked about AuditingTANF, and so and then changing the outcome goals, because as long as we keep the outcome goals based on how many people you bring into the system and that you in process and not look at the incentivizing how many people you're out processing, then you're just going to get a huge bureaucracy. And so not only looking at auditing from an outcome goal perspective, but also looking at the bureaucracy and looking at the administrative costs, because sometimes the administrative costs can enrich an agency. Just for an example, if there was 60% going to actually toward programming and moving people through the system and out of the system, but 40% going into the bureaucracy and the administrative side of it, so the audits will catch that as well. So the main thing, that piece of legislation to audit TANF and then make sure that information is reported on a regular basis will help us move away from the outcome goals that we're looking at now into positive outcome goals, but also streamlining the system and making it more efficient and getting more dollars to where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, and one of the things, the challenges that you have is many of these programs are funded by the federal government, okay? The state administers them, but the federal government puts, they put handcuffs on you. For example, we, the SNAP program, which is nutrition assistance, the old food stamp program, I think, and housing is another one. The state has asked more than once for a waiver that would allow us to handle that differently than the federal guidelines suggest. The federal guidelines would say, like you talked about earlier in SNAP or in housing, that as you increase your outside income through your job, then this other is going to sometimes totally cut out, but changes drastically. We've asked for a waiver for us to allow that to balance out more.
Transition.
Now, yes, it will cost the government more initially, okay? But what we've learned is and we through this project we're working on, we've developed this worksheet that if you give me the information about anybody, okay, in their family situation, I can tell you how much money they need to make outside of, on the outside in order for them to come out even. And the amount that they have to make, like a mom with 2 kids, in order for her to be able to get out from under government assistance, it's something like $50,000, okay? And so you're just like, what the heck? And if dad wants to come home, that number goes to almost 70.
And see, that's where
And so we ought to be balancing that to where every time they get a raise, it's good for them.
Right, and that's where we have to look at it from a policy standpoint, Ron, is making sure that our goal is to transition people, to transition people out of the welfare system. And so
That has to be the goal.
And do away with the welfare cliff, because most people, like Lanika said, they'll get real smart to it. They say, okay, if I make $1 over that 50,000, that's going to take away all of my benefits, so I'm not going to do it. And what happens is over time, you will get what we call generational welfare, because the information, like Lanika said before, is transferred from person to person. And so as that information is transferred from person to person, then you get this generation, then the next generation, then the next generation. So at some point, we have to say, kind of like our lunch meeting, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And start to look at real, meaningful ways and policies that will change the outcome goals for the program, and then begin to develop transitional periods to transition people off. And I know that we have less than 30 seconds
Last
left.
30 seconds. Go ahead, Ricky.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I got one more thing I want to
I also think that, one of the things, I'm a firm believer, money makes you more of what you already are. Whatever I'm doing, if I get money, I'm gonna do more of it. And so I think there has to also be a piece where we literally provide those that can help learn how to budget.
Yeah.
Because if I have money, okay, I got this money, but I'm gonna do what I know to do with it.
Yeah.
So if I'm making more, I got more to spend. As opposed to if I have if some assistance can be provided to say, okay, let me teach you how to budget. Let me teach you what it means to live within your means. Now I can save that money so that I get to that place where now I'm actually adding income to society instead of needing to be assisted by income from society.
Can I add something really quick?
Lenona real quick, and then,
Okay.
and then
I'm
Ron,
sorry.
and then
So,
I'll close out.
I just wanted to say, to piggyback on what you guys said, you said something about pulling out the tooth. If you pull out the teeth, how can we chew? How will we be able to chew? Then we can't eat. So then what? So DISD, all of these places, DHA, SNAP, WIC, Dallas County, I think we all need to be brought together. They need to be held accountable, because those are the different barriers that we have to go along the way. And so if we start with them and hold them accountable, or we get to where they have a time frame that you have on all of these programs, then you got to go. 5 years, you got to go. I mean,
There's a
come on.
time,
And
there's a
then
time limit. You can't stay
have-
on forever.
You have employment specialists that can help us. You have people in different programs that can help us.
Transitional management. Absolutely. Ron, real
Yeah,
quick.
Real
and then-
quickly, most of the people that want to get public policy changed have advocates that are doing that for them, lobbyists that are getting paid a lot of money, and they do a lot of good work. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a negative at all. It's the way the system works. The people that are on government assistance that want to get off do not have that advocate for public policy change. That's why you and I and we have to be willing to continue to do that. And that's what people like Texas Public Policy Foundation and others are trying to get done. So you're the advocate. Don't look, well, somebody else must be doing that for them. You're the advocate, okay? And listen, but for the grace of God, there go you and I. Don't ever, ever forget that.
Yeah.
And every time I see Daniel, I think about that, right? And I, we all want the best for everybody that we know. And so that takes away from us the ability to turn a blind eye.
And Ron said it best, it's up to you and I to be the advocates. Martin Luther King said, one cannot begin to live until he can rise above the narrow confinements of his own individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. It's all of us. It's all of our jobs. So let's go get it done. All right, thank you guys. Really appreciate it.